Hey guys, it's Shannon and John from That DIY Couple, where we make videos about becoming the best versions of ourselves. Today, we're going to talk about our personal finances. And this is a topic that I am really nervous to talk about in a
Yeah.
public forum. So, we're going to be doing a series about our net worth and tracking our net worth over time. We want to show you guys how we went from being really in the hole right after we graduated from college when we had significant student loans to being in a place where we feel pretty good and confident about our money. But this topic makes me nervous. I don't know. How about you?
Yeah, I think money is such a personal thing. People don't like to talk about money like it's really a big taboo to ask somebody like how much do they make at work or what's going on. It doesn't really have to be, but it just is. Particularly in the United States, I think probably throughout the entire world. And I think how you use money, people often use that as a reflection of who you are as a person. So if you are making a lot of money, then that says something about you. If you're spending a lot of money, that says something about you. And people can be very critical about the financial choices that you've made. I think even we are critical of other people too when we figure out the financial choices that they've made. So when we're talking about our finances, like our net worth, I am thinking that people are going to be critical of the
Yeah.
decisions that we've made. And there are a bunch of
For
people.
sure, there will be.
Yeah, like there are a bunch of people out on the internet that style themselves as like financial gurus or financial whatever. There are different financial movements, and we'll talk about some of them in this video about how to save money or not save money or how to do this or how to do that. And I'm sure that those people are going to come out of the woodwork and be like, you did this totally wrong, or this is insane, or whatever. And just because people disagree with what we've done and what you're going to do, and just because you might do something different than us, doesn't mean that it's wrong or bad. There are many different ways to get to whatever financial goals you want to get to. And we'll talk about the way that we've chosen. Doesn't have to be your way, though.
That's really well said. I think that hits on most of my insecurities. I think my specific insecurities are that within our immediate peer group, like our friends and our family, mostly from my high school and from our college, we had the privilege of studying at really pretty distinguished academic institutions. And we have a lot of friends who are doing like really well.
Right.
Like people who are working in hedge funds and just making millions every year. People who slaved away eating peanut butter sandwiches for years and then sold their amazing startup for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, I think it's mostly the former.
I mean, we have
a
a
little
lot
bit
of
less the latter.
we have a
but
lot of
not a lot. I mean, maybe one or
we
two
know
people.
we
Like,
know we have people in our peer group who are just doing so much better than us. For those people, they're gonna look at our finances and be like, I'm doing better. I wouldn't be bragging about any of this stuff.
Well, I think.
And then we also have people in our peer group who are really struggling. Like I feel like we're blessed to have friends of all backgrounds, people who we care about and love, who are really struggling. And
Well, I think so. That's part of the issue. Like, I don't really know anybody's finances. So if somebody is struggling financially, I don't really know. I can't really think of people.
Anyway, it's
I mean,
so for those people, I feel like if we put ourselves forward, I feel like the problem is that if we put our stuff out there and we're doing better than you or someone we know, then you might feel like we're showing off, or you might feel like, I don't know, like upset. And if we put ourselves out there and we were doing worse, then you might feel like, what's the big deal? Why would you share this? Like,
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at us and assume that we're doing financially really well, and which is, I guess, nice that people would think that. But it certainly
they're probably going to
is-
be a little shocked at some of the stuff in here. Then
Yeah.
they might. That's the other
part of
thing
the
is that people
embarrassment,
might be people might be shocked at. Anyway, I feel like we're beating around the bush here. This video, we're just going to talk about our relationship with money and our background with it and how like we felt. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take you guys through our net worth and how it's grown since we have graduated from college in a series of videos where you guys will be able to see the growth of our assets, the growth of our debts, and have an opportunity to ask us questions about how we did it. I grew up in a household where I was very privileged to have parents who were relatively high income earners. My dad is a lawyer, but he was one of the first in our family to be a professional in that way. I do have a grandfather who's a lawyer, but my dad's dad died when he was really young. And so my dad is the first sort of professional role model that he really, he's a self-made man is what I'm trying to say. My mom is the definition of a self-made woman. She grew up an orphan. She had absolutely nothing.
An actual orphan.
An actual orphan. She had a very tough childhood, and she ended up being adopted by a foster family who was very loving to her in high school. But she basically went to college, first person to go to college, put herself through law school, and kind of made it. Like, both my parents were basically kind of like the American dream. We were living comfortably an upper middle class lifestyle where we didn't want for anything, but we also never had extra money because my parents, even though they were relatively high income earners, didn't have a saving and investing mentality. So like many people who reach a high level of income, they would basically spend most of what they were making. And so money was actually tight, as it is for, I think, many people at higher incomes, like, you know, not having a ton of extra for like, and also I'm one of 3 children in my parents' marriage and 4 children with my dad's second marriage. So there was a lot of like mouths to feed. Two of my brothers have issues that are quite expensive, health issues. And so basically, long story short, I grew up feeling comfortable, like very comfortable and very grateful that I never went hungry. I never didn't receive gifts at Christmas time. If I needed a book or I needed, you know, something for my education, it was always readily available. But also like thinking about like, oh, I can't really do this at this time of month because we don't have any money for that right until like a week or 2 from now. Mm-hmm. My parents also valued education so much that they really sacrificed saving for their own retirements to put me into the best schools. And so I was studying with people who were really, really financially well off, particularly when I went to an elite boarding school on the East Coast. I was studying alongside both people who were on financial aid and came from like very like worse backgrounds than me, but also people who were just wealthier than anyone I had ever met. And so my feelings towards money were always fear, insecurity, and jealousy. Like not, you know, just feeling like I was sort of swimming in a sea around people who had more than me. And no knowledge of like how it worked. So money was really scary to me. And I, until about 2013, right before I graduated from law school, when I read a lot of books, very scared about my student loan burden from both undergrad and law school, I read a lot of books about money. I felt like a total relationship of just like total lack of control, like total terror and fear and a desire not to talk about it when it came to money.
Yeah, my background is a little bit different, although for various reasons I had a similar ultimate relationship with money. But my family, so sort of like Shannon's family, my dad is super, super self-made. My grandparents, his parents, were born in Italy. They came over to the United States in the early 20th century with absolutely nothing. My dad was born about 3 weeks before the stock market crash in 1929 that ushered in the Great Depression. He went to the Marine Corps. He was in the Korean War. Basically grew up with nothing and made a ton of money for himself by way of being a podiatrist, which is like a foot doctor. So he was extremely financially successful starting in around the 1950s, having come from nothing. He bought his parents a house. He moved his parents out to California. He paid for all sorts of expenses for himself, his family. He raised 4 kids, who are my half brothers with his first marriage. So in the 60s and 70s, he was doing very, very well financially. He did a lot of investing. He had some real estate investments. He remarried. He remarried my mom. And right when I was born, he made a couple of bad financial decisions that at the time he couldn't have guessed. But essentially, he invested all of the money that he had saved for retirement in a company that ultimately didn't make any money and lost a lot of money. So my parents had been accustomed to living this insane life before I was born. Like they had matching Porsches. They would buy different Porsches every year. They had houses in fantastic places. They lived for a year in Hawaii. Around when I was born, the money that my parents had saved up through their whole careers, my mom never worked. She was just a house homemaker, essentially. The money that my parents had saved up all sort of ran out when I was really young, and the money that was tied up in this company, it turned out was just they're just never gonna get it. So there was a ton of stress from maybe age 5 until age 12 in my life about money, about what are we going to do, and the change in lifestyle from my parents to high spending to like we really have to count every penny was insanely hard on by my parents and by reflection on me. And one thing that Shannon and I have in common is that my parents never ever my parents always spent money on education. Always. That was the most important thing to them. So they sent me to private school in Florida, like a very expensive private school in Florida. I went to college, and because we had financial aid, my parents were able to pay for my college education, which was tremendous. And because my grandparents had been pretty well off, they'd actually saved money for me for education that I'd use for law school. So unlike Shannon, I was able to graduate without any student debt from college and law school. And similar to Shannon, I grew up not really wanting anything, not really having to be concerned about money, but knowing that money was a very, very, very stressful topic for my family and my parents. That's one of the main reasons I went to law school, is because my parents had felt that they'd been taken advantage of by a lawyer financially. And the only way, whether you're going to do law or business or whatever, to sort of like even the scales is to be a lawyer. So I went to law school just because they wanted to do that, basically. They'd instilled that in me about the power of being a lawyer. But by the time I had graduated from law school and my parents were no longer really supporting me financially, and the same with Shannon, we were, more or less at ground zero. I think maybe my financial literacy was a little bit more than yours, because my parents are super savers. I mean, like crazy savers. They're the most conservative spenders I've ever encountered in my whole life. So they had talked about that. They talked about investing, and they talked about things with money. So I was aware of financial topics, but as well, as much as implementing them in my own life, I had never had occasion to do that.
So that's it, you guys. This has just been a brief introduction to this financial series that you can expect to see on our channel in the coming weeks, months, years. And what you can expect from it is a really detailed, with numbers, look at our net worth, starting from when we graduated from college until today. We're going to be doing a yearly snapshot of our net worth from the time that we graduated from college until we get to this year, 2019, when we're going to be doing a monthly snapshot of our net worth.
Mostly from when we graduated from law school, I think. We have a little bit of data from when we graduated from college, but mostly it's going to be post-law school.
Right, when we entered the workforce.
Right.
So in the future, you guys will be able to follow along with us as we grow our nest egg. We want to talk to you first about another topic, which is financial independence and early retirement, the FIRE community, which is a part of our ethos right now around money. So stay tuned for the next video. We'll put a link down below on that. And if you guys have questions or there's things that you want us to address in this series, please comment down below and let us know what your relationship with money is and has been historically. We're dying to know. Until next time, guys, thanks so much for watching. Until next time, do well and always make things better.
Oh,